In the attic of an old dilapidated house, hidden beneath a pile of dusty forgotten belongings, I stumbled upon an aged leather-bound journal. Its cover was worn and stained, and the pages within were brittle and yellowed with time. Little did I know that this seemingly ordinary discovery would unravel a tale of horror that would haunt my nightmares for years to come. The house had once belonged to my great-grandparents, but it had been abandoned for as long as I could remember. My family had decided to sell the property and asked me to clean out the attic before putting it on the market. I had always been drawn to the mysteries of the past, so I welcomed the opportunity to explore the attic's forgotten treasures. The journal bore no title, and its author was unknown, but as I opened it and began to read, I was immediately captivated by the chilling words scrawled across the pages. It was a diary, but not just any diary. It was the journal of a serial killer. The entries were written in a neat, precise hand, each one detailing the author's heinous acts in disturbing detail. The first entry spoke of the thrill the author felt upon taking a life, the rush of power that surged through them as they watched the light drain from their victim's eyes. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine as I read those words, realizing that I was holding the account of a monster. I continued to read, unable to tear my eyes away from the horrifying accounts. The author described each murder with a sickening relish, recounting the gruesome details of how they chose their victims, how they lured them in, and how they disposed of their lifeless bodies. As I delved deeper into the diary, I realized that the author had never been caught. They had managed to evade the authorities for years, leaving a trail of death and terror in their wake. The diary chronicled their crimes in cities across the country, each entry punctuated with macabre drawings and disturbing poetry. My initial shock and revulsion soon gave way to a sense of dread. What if the killer was still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for their next victim? The diary offered no clues as to the author's identity, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that the evil described in those pages had somehow seeped into my world. I made the decision to take the diary to the police, hoping that it might provide them with the information they needed to finally catch the killer. As I left the attic and descended the creaky staircase, I felt a sense of unease settle over me. It was as though the house itself had become tainted by the darkness of the diary. That night as I lay in bed, I heard a soft, eerie whispering coming from the attic. It was a faint, ghostly voice, barely audible, but it sent chills down my spine. I dismissed it as my imagination playing tricks on me and tried to fall asleep, but the whispering continued, growing louder and more insistent. I couldn't ignore it any longer. I got out of bed and made my way to the attic, my heart pounding in my chest. As I reached the top of the stairs, I could hear the whispering more clearly, the words forming a sinister chant. "Release me. Set me free." I pushed open the attic door and stepped into the dimly lit space. The diary lay open on the floor, its pages fluttering as though touched by an unseen hand. The whispering seemed to emanate from the diary itself, and I realized with a growing sense of horror that the evil contained within its pages had taken on a life of its own. I picked up the diary, my hands trembling, and as I did, the whispering grew louder, the words becoming more distinct. "Release me. Set me free." I knew then that I had unwittingly unleashed something malevolent, something that had been bound to the diary's pages for years. It was a darkness that hungered for release, a darkness that sought to continue the killer's reign of terror. With a sinking feeling, I realized that I had become the custodian of this evil, and I was the only one who could stop it. I needed to find a way to destroy the diary, to break the curse that bound it to the world of the living. I searched for answers, scouring old books on the occult and consulting experts in the field of paranormal phenomena. The diary seemed to have a hold on me, its malevolent presence growing stronger with each passing day. I could feel its influence seeping into my thoughts, urging me to commit acts of violence, to become like the killer who had penned its pages. Desperation led me to a reclusive occultist who claimed to have knowledge of how to banish the evil contained within cursed objects. He told me of a ritual, a dangerous and forbidden rite that could sever the diary's connection to the living world. With no other options, I agreed to the occultist's terms. The ritual was performed in the dead of night, in a desolate,